Welcome to Moscow Outskirts to another CoH2 replaycast. This time we're going to have a 2v2, as you can see, and it's going to be between Immature playing as Wehrmacht, Bori playing as the OKW, and on the enemy team we're going to have Triant, who I'm going to call Triant, playing as the Soviets, and Cyril Arts, who I'm going to call Cyril, playing as the Yosef. Now this is not my usual type of game, where I will be featuring very new players, maybe who sent in the replay to me or who asked for advice on CoH2.org. This is straight from CoH2.org, of course, but it was uploaded by Immature, who is, well, a streamer and also a pretty decent player. And this is an arranged team 2v2. Well, at least I checked out, and he has 80 with Bori. They're at about 100 rank, so they're pretty good. Not like the highest pro level, but they're pretty decent. And the enemy team is a random 2v2, which straight off the bat is a bit of a problem. Very big disadvantage in a 2v2 to actually be a random team as opposed to a organized team. Because obviously being together, especially when it's someone like Immature and Bori, who have, I checked out, played more than 100 games together, they know each other probably very well and instinctively. So it's not just a communications advantage, it's also a, in general, advantage of just knowing what your friend is going to do off the bat without even asking him. But on the assumption that both teams are at the same skill level, that would still mean that the ranged team has a pretty good advantage. Now, Moscow Outskirts, as you can see, a couple of very exposed field points that can be very easily harassed. As you can see, this one field point on the right that is usually the territory of the southern team is being capped by the northern team, and the other one, which is usually territory belonging to the northern spawn, is being capped by the southern spawn. This is pretty normal on Moscow Outskirts. If the field points get exchanged, it's really no big deal. It's something that sometimes happens. Second engagement in the center, we see some Stern Pioneers from Bori. Gonna try to get these riflemen to not capture their munitions point, but also there's a weird switch happening. I'm not sure, these guys just didn't want to fight each other, which is probably smart. The riflemen could take a lot of casualties from the Stern Pioneers at close range. Looks like these riflemen will be able to steal the building from the Volksgrenadiers. These Volksgrenadiers just had to retreat right now, or else they will take a huge amount of damage. They will try to get behind this fence? No, they will not. They will just sit there and take casualties. That's a little bit unfortunate. Machine gun in the center from Triant. Actually, trying to capture the center is a pretty good idea for him because he was forced out of the left. Good purchase for him, a mortar. Mortar is going to be very useful at dealing with machine guns, especially the ones that are going in buildings, such as this MG42 covering the field point, and also will be useful in the sort of stalemate type fighting that sometimes ensues on this map. On the right side of the map, we see that some Volksgrenadiers have tried to deal some damage to the Americans by capturing the field point, but they were repulsed. They almost managed to wipe out the rear echelon troops, but thankfully for Cyril, the rear echelons were able to escape pretty much unharmed. And the Stern Pioneers getting into the negative cover might actually go down if the Maxim machine gun were to reposition and try to get one last burst off, but probably will not be in time because the Stern Pioneers very quick on their retreat, managing to actually escape. And as you can see, some of the features of Moscow Outskirts as a map are already starting to shine a little bit. The very fluid gameplay on the flanks and sometimes the stalemate center are already starting to develop. Nice flank coming from Immature with the Grenadiers trying to get behind the machine gun. Obviously pretty easy to do against the Maxim. Very small arc of fire means that usually Grenadiers will be able to easily outflank it. Usually using a nice sort of dual-pronged attack with one sort of force of Grenadiers to hold down the machine gun while second squad flanks around. Pretty standard tactic, but very effective. Unfortunately, it does look like the Grenadiers aren't all shooting at the MG team. Some were shooting at the Engineers, which explains their very low HP count, and possibly some shots went in on the mortar team as well. Sometimes what you want to do is just right-click your troops on a squad that you want to focus fire against. And, oh shit, I forgot to turn off my Steam. Yes, I'm sorry. Let's turn off Steam. Okay. Nice, actually, capturing the church with the riflemen. Capturing the church, though, is not exactly the best thing right now because, as you can see, there's 3 squads of Volksgrenadiers pouring lead onto the church, and the wooden structure will not provide that much protection against that many rifles shooting against the poor riflemen inside. And on the left side, we see that Treant is having a little bit of trouble. And this is obviously the problem with being a random team. You cannot exactly call your ally to help. If this was an arranged team, there would be a much better coordination in dealing with these kinds of sort of double pushes onto one player, which is what happened to poor Treant. He had the OKW from Bori coming in from the center area, and the machine gun, the munitions area being flooded with Wehrmacht troops. So he wasn't exactly able to deal with the huge increase in actual opposition. Now, on the right side, you see that Cyril has managed, because of the focus on the left side and the center that the Germans had, to actually capture a lot of territory, and now he's got the captain on the field. Captain will obviously be very good because one pack howitzer and AT gun on a very, very open map like this one is excellent. Pack howitzer obviously to take out enemy defensive positions and support guns, and the AT gun just in case the enemy decides to go for any kind of heavy armor or very quick light tank strategy. And also because the Stuart will be very useful just to provide support on the flanks. Having a Stuart to actually repel these Volksgrenadiers right now will be very good. In fact, we see that Bori is going for a mechanized regiment headquarters, which means that most likely he will go for a Lux, or he will go for a Puma to counter any kind of light vehicles that the Soviets or Americans might be getting out. Right now, Treant does have a lot of fuel. He could actually go for a T-70 in just a little bit. He just needs to actually build a tier 3 with his combat engineers at the base. Nice usage of smoke from the mortar over here just to assault this one machine gun. Very nice. Gonna take it out. Molotov going into the building will not be very important because the machine gun is already hightailed it out of there because, well, he didn't want to anyway risk the very precious MG42. Right now, the main mistake Immature is making, I feel like, is leaving that one machine gun on the left side, and while he has 500 manpower, not purchasing a second one to actually use in the center. Because in the center of the map, pretty much an MG42 would be very good to hold the center and provide any kind of suppression against the allied troops that might be coming there. Unfortunately, Immature decided to not go for that, and right now he's going for a pack and a 222 Scott car. Now, the pack will be a very important tool later on against the allied vehicles, and of course, getting it as early as possible is a good thing for any Wehrmacht player. However, I feel like the 222 Scott car will not be that important right now. It's a little bit too late to go for one. He knows that Cyril has the captain tier unlocked, so he might be going for a Stuart anytime soon, and the 222 against the Stuart is not exactly that great. Now, on the left side, we see that the mortar is being pushed up to cap. This is a very good move by Treant. Using the support weapon to cap means that basically his infantry squads are a little bit more free to do actual fighting. Right now, the fighting is not going that well for him, however. He had a combat engineer, actually a conscript, over here by the truck trying to hold off the Grenadiers, but that was not very successful. In fact, the support weapons were forced back. In fact, the mortar was killed. So that was a little bit of a mistake. Free mortar for Immature. He's gonna pretty much say thank you and take it. Again, he could have left it over there instead of retreating it just to cap and use his Grenadiers to support a Scout car. Scout car actually pushing up very far. A second machine gun coming out of Treant will not be that great against the Scout car. The Scout car easily able to outflank it and pretty much smash it with the autocannon. Now, on the right side, we do see that Cyril is having quite some success, and he's repulsing some of the OKW pushes against them, but Bori has managed to sort of regroup and repush for the fuel point, which is obviously really good because right now the Germans have managed to retake the left side fuel point, which was taken by Treant. Now, Stuart is on the field, and this is exactly what I said about 222. He's not going to be able to do that much with the Stuart on the field, but nice long-range Panzerfaust coming in from the Grenadiers of Immature. They will be able to easily take out the engine of that Stuart. Of course, Stuart, being an American vehicle, he can just get his crew out and repair it. But at the same time, that's a lot of time that the Stuart cannot use to actually sort of fulfill its mission of being an early game unit. Now, one OKW squad gonna go down? No. Actually, sort of retreating for the heavy cover was bad, but the bazooka-equipped captain, having that bazooka means that essentially one less guy is firing a rifle at the infantry. So, yeah, pretty understandable as to why that did not result in a wipe. Ooh, a Puma is actually on the field. Looks like it tried to get the Stuart to, well, die, but that was not exactly very successful because the conscripts are equipped with anti-tank grenades, so obviously Bori does not want to risk his Puma getting its engine damaged behind enemy lines. He's not an American, so he cannot just get out his crew and get a critical repair off in the middle of the enemy territory. So he needs to keep his Puma at a very, very safe distance from these conscripts, especially also from the Ved1 riflemen, which are sort of running over the right side of the map. There is a mine actually on the field from Bori. Usage of mines is really good, but right now, the main problem for Bori is that he's taken heavy losses on his infantry. He's not going to have the manpower to actually replenish all of them, and that's a really big problem. Oh, another mine takes out the engine of the Stuart, and Bori has actually noticed. He's going to charge in his Puma. There is pretty much nothing right now that can help out the Stuart, and so I think the Stuart is going to go down. Oh, nice usage actually of the stun round from the Stuart. 45 munitions well spent for the shell shock on the Puma. Coming in with the rifleman and the captain, that will not be enough to save the poor Stuart, which will go down from the long-range shot of the Puma. But at least Cyril knew that his Puma was, his Stuart was going down, and so he got out his vehicle crew. And that's a really good thing because that's a lot of veterancy on that vehicle crew that may be used on a future vehicle for the Americans. And it's just in general a squad that can be used to harass the enemy. It can be used to backcap. Can be used to repair vehicles. It can be used for a lot of things. So in any case, whenever you see an American player getting out his vehicle crew before the vehicle dies, that's pretty much a sign that the guy knows what he's doing and has the timing down, because it's not an easy thing to do. It requires quite a lot of good timing. Now, the Puma is taking a lot of damage, but it hasn't gotten its engine knocked out by the rifleman, so it can use a nice smoke Panzer Tactician and just gets out of the range of the captain's bazooka, so that was a pretty good play by him. Unfortunately, it looks like Cyril will lose his vet-free vehicle crew, so yeah, that was a bit of a mistake. Getting it out from the Stuart just to lose it to the huge swarm of German infantry in the center. On the left side, we see that Triant has taken up the position in this house with a machine gun, and he has also got a ZIS-free divisional field gun. Obviously, ZIS-free will be very useful against any kind of German vehicles. Right now, speaking of German vehicles, Immature does have the Battle Phase 2, so he does have the ability to go for a Panzer IV if he so desires. Not yet with the resources, but maybe soon enough. Now, we do see a artillery barrage coming in from the Su-76. However, there is a car in the way that these Grenadiers took cover behind. In fact, the Grenadiers could have Panzerfausted this Su-76 just to be safe. And in general, going up very close to Grenadiers is not a good idea because, for all Trian knows, the pack might have been in pursuit. And a damaged engine Su-76 with a pack in range pretty much is a death spell. Now, we do see some Panzer Grenadiers out of Immature, getting out a nice grenade against the machine gun. The Maxim obviously being huddled up in the house, taking a lot of damage from the grenade through the trees, so that was a good play. Immature does not have that many munitions, however. Of course, this is not that big of a problem because the Germans control both munitions points, so they will have quite a lot of munitions to actually spend using abilities and mines, as Bori has been doing. Bori, in fact, does have 250 munitions, and he's not been upgrading his Volksgrenadiers with SDGs. I feel like that's a mistake, especially when the Americans have gone for the not the infantry company. Still a little bit of old school there. That was the tactical support company with the M1919 light machine guns. Obviously, going to be very, very strong on Moscow outskirts. Long range engagements means that obviously any kind of light machine gun will be very useful. And pretty much to counter that, right now the Germans will need some Obersoldaten, obviously talking about the OKW. The Wehrmacht could just get LMGs on his Grenadiers, but he hasn't been doing that. It looks like he's been spending most of his munitions on very expensive, munitions-wise, abilities, so that's a bit of a problem. This Grenadier squad is going to go down. Unfortunate, Vet2 Volksgrenadiers going down from the Riflemen, and the rear echelon troop fire. That's just the problem of sometimes forgetting your troops in pretty much no cover. Now, a little bit of a skirmish on the left side is going to go the Germans' way. One conscript squad might go down from the negative cover. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Immature was able to chase a little bit, but oh well. Triant's having gone for counterattack tactics. Okay, that's very interesting. Oh, Rifleman. Focus fire on the Rifleman. Bori, no! That was a very bad slip-up. That was very important, actually, to kill this one Rifleman squad, but he was not able to, and that's gonna bite him in the ass, because that's a Vet 2 Rifleman squad with Vet 2. He does not want that squad getting Tibet free. Absolutely doesn't want that. But thankfully for him, he has been able to push up a little bit and get up to the approaches of the base. However, I feel like right now, Bori really needs to go for this victory point on the right side of the map. That would provide a triple cap for the Germans, provided that the Germans were able to actually recapture the left, which might not happen due to the Fort Mother Russia activated shock troops, who will be able to probably wipe out this one Grenadier. No, very lucky on the Grenadier. Possibly for Mother Russia was actually a bit more of a hindrance than a help over there in wiping out that Grenadier, because when the units are sprinting due to form their motherland, they cannot fire. So chasing down a Grenadier squad with a shock troop squad is usually pretty easy, because shock troops don't really lose that much accuracy on the move. And in general, being very close, they would have been able to catch up and eventually kill it. But with the Fort of Motherland, they would have been able to catch it up a little bit easier, but at the same time not firing against it. So I feel like the chase would have been a little bit easier without the Fort of Motherland. And probably the Grenadier squad would have gone down. Now, Immature has gone for the tier 3 and does decide to go for a Panzer IV. I feel like that might be a mistake. Right now, Ziotrian does have a Su-76, and he does have a second Su-76. Obviously, Immature does not know about the second Su-76, but he knows about the 176 and the ZIS field gun. So that's already plenty of AT, along with the conscripts using their anti-tank grenades, and along with any possible mines. I mean, Immature does not have a minesweeper, so he always needs to be wary about mines. Especially on approaches that are very obvious, like this one, or this one. So, in general, the Panzer IV is already going to be kind of... there's going to be a lot of counters on the field for it. So I'm not really sure about the decision to get one. Of course, right now, Triant does look like he will forget this one conscript, and that will go very badly for him. Right now, he's only got one conscript squad left. I feel like he's lost a couple, at least. Let's look at the graphs. Oh no, he's only lost one. He only built 2, which is, well, a bit of a mistake, I feel like. On any map, you need at least 3 conscript squads as the Soviets, because they're just very useful for capping, for throwing anti-tank grenades. And nice play with the Panzer IV, but as you can see, very obvious approach. Mine was placed, and the Panzer IV will go down. Pushing up without minesweepers was definitely a mistake. Second Su-76 will eat a Panzerfaust from the Grenadiers, but that will not be enough to save the Panzer IV. Panzer IV runs into a wall of trees and will go down. Of course, he managed to take out one Su-76, but again, Su-76 is very cheap, something like 75 fuel. And so, obviously, the 125 fuel Panzer IV will not be a very good trade for the 75 fuel Su-76. There is a Puma trying to get to the left side, but there is a mine over here from Ziotriant. So if the Puma actually hits the mine and is in sight of this anti-tank gun, that will not be very good. The Puma is actually trying to go for the Su-76. Su-76 could just honestly stay here and shoot at the Puma. Unfortunately, he was not able to get sort of a sighting in time. I feel like if the Su-76 would have turned just a little slight bit to the right and just stay there. Oh, a Sturm Tiger is on the field for Bori, and that's the end of this 76 AT gun. That will not survive for very long. Right now, the Puma could be used to actually take out the AT gun, which is what Bori will do. Very good play by him. Actually taken out all of the anti-tank capabilities of Ziotriant, and right now there is the Maxim question. The Maxim is being flanked by this Grenadier squad. Grenadier squad will go for a grenade, but the grenade will not finish off the Maxim. Maxim will try to actually reposition to the right side, but at this point... Oh, no, actually, these guys are not in heavy cover, so it will be pretty easy to take them out. This Grenadier squad does have 27 kills, so testament to the good micro of Immature on the left side, that these Grenadiers were able to get so much veterancy and so many kills. Now, a Calliope is out from Cyril Arts, so we're starting to see the late game doctrinal units come into fully play. And this Calliope, oh, this will be very much devastating. Detonating a mine, actually, and dealing a huge amount of damage to the Volksgrenadiers. Very lucky with the first Volksgrenadier squad, actually, that the Calliope did not completely take it out. And this battle group headquarters, I missed talking about it, but that's not a very savory battle group headquarters when there's a Calliope on the field for the enemy. The question is, do the allies know about it? Doesn't look like it. From the fog of war, they do not have the knowledge that this thing exists. So that's a very big problem. Actually, the Puma is Vet 2 and is taking some pot shots against the Su-76, but the Su-76, freshly built, manages to take it out and actually uses the tree as a sightline cover from the pack, but that will not be enough. Pack will manage to snipe it at the end. And right now, Treant is very much low on units. I feel like he could go for the B4 howitzer. He's going to have the manpower required soon enough. But first, he will need to build a combat engineer to actually build it. So that's already kind of scaling back the manpower requirement a little bit. And also, I feel like he definitely needs some units. He just needs units. He does not need an artillery piece. He needs units on the field to contest points and contest map control. And just a general fight. Because right now, Immature has a pretty high amount of units. And so I feel like he needs some kind of presence on the field to sort of help out his ally. Because right now, Cyril will be carrying the sort of day alone, and there's a Stern Tiger on the field, which means that Cyril cannot really indulge in excessively defensive play, because if he does, that will happen. The Stern Tiger really eats defensive positions and defensive play and defensively minded players. 2 rifleman squads going down with their respective light machine guns dropped. So this will be a very good prize for this freshly built Volksgrenadier. He could go and get both M1919 light machine guns, which means that that squad will be a bane of the Allied troops. So I feel like right now, Cyril and Zio need to start playing together. Again, this is the problem with being a random team. You cannot just coordinate as well as these arranged teams. As you can see, Bori is coming in and helping out on pretty much both sides of the map. He's right now in the center, but earlier on he was on the right side, and earlier on he had the Puma on the left side. So again, really good play with the Puma, the Stern Tiger, going out and helping out his ally pretty much exactly when Immature needed it. Immature right now does have a lot of resources stocked up. He does have the Lightning War Doctrine, so he's going to have the big toy of his own, the Tiger. Now, all the big toys being brought out pretty much means that whoever uses them best will have a lot of success in this match. But at the same time, it's not all about the big toys, because right now the Germans do have a lot of infantry compared to the Allies. So in terms of, you know, the not so big but still very important toys, you know, the run-of-the-mill normal stuff, the Germans do have the advantage compared to the Allies. So right now that's what pretty much the Germans are sort of carrying themselves with. Very good play, taking out 2 Maxims with an infantry assault. Again, this is just because the Germans have more troops. This is not any fancy tactics. They just kind of ran straight at them. There was not a lot that those Maxims could have done. Perhaps with a little bit of better micro, Treant could have been able to actually suppress all of the infantry squads that were coming in, because it was only a slight flank. It's not like that was incounterable, but still, that was just a lot of units that the Maxim could not deal with. Now, good usage of the Calliope. It's trying to, at this point, he has spotted the battle group headquarters, so trying to snipe perhaps some retreating unit that was very low on HP. But unfortunately, it didn't really work out. None of the units went down, and there is an artillery strike. Looks like a major RD coming in. That will do a lot of damage against the battle group headquarters, but I doubt that it will kill it. So I feel like that was a bit of a waste of munitions, especially when Cyril Arts is going to need to rebuild his rifleman force. He's going to need munitions to actually buy LMGs. And in fact, the major RD kind of missed because it was a little bit aimed to the north of the battle group headquarters and not exactly on the battle group headquarters itself, which means that in general, poor Major really didn't have the actual tools to get that artillery strike off on the right sort of location. Now, okay, so I see what Immature does. He went for the G40 freeze, but I feel like that's a mistake. I feel like he would have, been better off going for the LMGs because, again, look at the map. It's Moscow outskirts. This isn't, I don't know, Trois-Ponts. It's not a map where you're going to have some very close range engagements, and unfortunately this Rhine Rifleman spot will definitely go down from all the Grenadier hordes coming in. Again, there's going to be a lot of long range. I feel like it may be partially due to the fact that with the G40 freeze you can shoot while running, which you may think it's not that important, but it is a very important thing when the enemy has an artillery piece that can nail you when you're standing still. In fact, again, this is the miscommunication coming in. Treant almost moving in and eating his own allies as Calliope Barrage, but the Sturm Tiger actually almost nails them on the other side. So those shock troops were a little bit caught between the frying pan and the fire, but at least they saved themselves. That's a very expensive squad, and actually Treant has gone for our second shock troop squad. Normally I would say that's a mistake, but right now he's using them correctly in that he's using them to sort of be a nuisance on the flanks and just in general use their smoke ability to take out any machine guns that Immature might be using to cover the flanks. This is going to be really good because right now the Germans do have the resources advantage quite a bit, and they also have the VP advantage. The Allies are down to 250, and the Germans are at 450, so they have a lead of 200 points, and they also have a lead in units. Now, Immature has gone far for this Tiger. He's also got 600 manpower, though, and this is a problem with a lot of players, that when they save up for those big heavy tanks, they save up not only fuel, but also manpower. It's almost like they think that they need, like, they just need to save up for the tank in terms of fuel, so I'm just going to save up manpower as well, and I'm not going to get any units. Right now, Immature could go for a second pack, and that would be really good. A really good sort of, whatchamacallit, like, insurance policy against any kind of American or Soviet armor spam. Right now it's not happening because both the Americans and the Soviets have gone for mostly support vehicles. The Americans have gone for 2 Calliopes, so artillery, and the Soviets have gone for 2 Su-76s, so light anti-tank. And this is, well, it kind of makes sense in the situation. They want to sort of fix the Germans with their anti-tank, sort of prevent their vehicles from charging in, like the Spuma is doing. Very good lucky shot on the Su-76, takes out the gun, and means that the Puma basically has the chance to come in, outflank the one Su-76, and outflank the other one, take out the other one, and then run away as if nothing happened. So, good nimble play with the Puma, pretty much using its strengths to its advantage, but makes a mistake, runs right back into the sightline of the Su-76. Su-76 also makes a bit of a mistake, so run right into the Tiger. That's a bit of a problem, especially with an AT gun covering the flank of the Tiger. Second AT gun coming from the rear, taking a lot of hits. And of course the Tiger is going to have to retreat, but since the Americans and the Soviets only have AT guns and tank destroyers to actually shoot at it, the tank will be able to pretty easily escape. Main gun will be destroyed, but the Germans do have some Pioneers. Second Pioneer squad being built by Immature is actually a really good play, but right now he does need a second Pioneer squad. Sturm Tiger tries to nail the AT gun, but it will fail. Very unlucky on the shot. Very good play by Cyril Arts, actually managing to get the AT gun to safety. And right now, there is a Su-76 trying to charge after the Tiger. You usually don't see this happening because it's a terrible idea. In fact, the pack will show us why it's a terrible idea, and hopefully the Grenadiers will show that too. He will try to actually get in and find the Tiger, however, not enough. Deals a lot of damage against the Grenadiers with 1 artillery barrage, desperation, but that will not be enough. Fort of Motherland actually being activated as a follow-up to the Su-76 push, but there is a machine gun suppressing all the shock troops. Actually, the battery recorders will go down from a strafing run combined with, I'm guessing, artillery? I'm guessing some kind of artillery got called down over here because that does not make much sense for it to go down to anything else. The pack was decrewed, so any vet that it accrued will be officially out of the question, but at the same time, the Germans will be able to recrew it. The Allies were not able to actually steal it, which is a bit of a problem. Rear echelon troops actually going to take the Maxim gun to actually defend the center, which is good. However, with all the Grenadiers already in the field, he's going to need to retreat, so that's a bit of a problem for him. There's also an AT gun that's very low on HP. That's also Vet 1. So Treant does not want that AT gun going down. It doesn't want the Veteran C to go down. And the Calliope barrage in the center will completely miss, so that's a bit of a problem for the Allies. There's actually a pretty good push coming in from Immature and his ally. Coming in with the Sturm Tiger, taking out one of the Calliopes. Really good shot with the Sturm Tiger. That was a bit of a misplay from Cyril. He did not expect the Sturm Tiger to be able to see the Calliope and shoot at it, but you always need to be sort of moving your units as much as possible when this Sturm Tiger is up. You cannot afford... Ooh, 1 Grenadier squad going down. You cannot afford to let the Sturm Tiger have a clear shot on a stationary unit. You just have to move them. when the Sturm Tiger is coming in, you just have to move. It just does not matter what the situation is. You have to move all of your units around at all times. You just need to like take your units and just go like this. Just like go like this. Select your random units and go like that. Or maybe select all the units and press tab, because when you press tab, as you can see, it just cycles through the units. So you press tab, move one unit, press tab, move another unit, press tab, move another unit, press tab, remove your unit. And that's what you want to do, because otherwise you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose all of your guys, and you don't want to lose all of your guys. Now, in the center, it does look like a Tiger is taking some pot shots on the American infantry and the Soviet infantry. Americans trying to get an anti-tank grenade off, but the Tiger, obviously being full HP, doesn't really care and shrugs it off. Bori has lost a lot of units in these engagements. So again, good play from the Allies, taking what they're given. Again, if the Germans give you Volksgrenadiers, you take the Volksgrenadiers. And again, only the squad with the 2 LMGs is left, and that will be a bane for the Americans if the Volksgrenadiers can actually get some vet. That kind of squad to vet 5, you don't want that. As you can see, the vet-free riflemen are just already getting demolished by the Volksgrenadiers at vet 2. So just imagine when they're vet 5. That's going to be ridiculous. Sturm Tiger has been reloaded, and he's coming in the center, and there's 2 AT guns. No! Don't leave the AT gun there. He's going to come in late on the retreat, and the AT gun is going to die. Unfortunately, after the patch, you cannot take out the weapon crew and the weapon in the same shot. If the weapon crew is already sort of manning the weapon, you can only reduce the weapon to like 1% HP. So the AT gun is still going to be there to be recruited and possibly repaired from the Allies. Good push from the shock troops of Triant. He's going to need quite a lot of good pushes, however, because the Germans have a lot more infantry squads than he does. Immature has 2 machine guns, 3 Panzer Grenadiers, 1 Grenadier. Actually, 2 Grenadier squads went down recently from Immature, so that's a bit of a problem. Right now, it's at the point where if one squad can actually, one team can actually preserve their units better, in the long run, they will be able to win, because there's 2 ways to win a long-term 2v2. A 2v2 that's going for a long time, there's only 2 ways to win it, really. One way is to preserve your units better than the enemy, and another way is to kill all the enemy units in one good push. And that's what Cyril and Triant managed to do against Bori. They killed all of his units in one good push. However, Immature has been able to sort of weather the blows a little bit better. He has lost a few Grenadier squads, but since he does have a lot of manpower reserves, he was able to replenish those. Bori also has a lot of manpower reserves, but unfortunately he's not really using those manpower reserves again, because I feel like he's going for the King Tiger. Which, again, good idea. King Tiger, by all means, go for it. Especially in a long match like this, it's going to be really good. Especially when there's a lot of enemy artillery units, because the artillery does not have a lot of chances of taking out the King Tiger. Wow, that shot from the Jackson was just miraculous. Taking out the main gun of the Tiger right as the Tiger was about to take out the M4 Sherman. That's like movie level. That reminds me of like Saving Private Ryan, the last scene where the guy's like shooting at the Tiger, and here comes the fucking P-47 and takes out the Tiger. That's just that miraculous. Really good play with the Jackson. That's exactly what Cyril needed, actually. Right now, the Germans going for the heavy tanks. The best counter to the heavy tanks is the Jackson. Hands down from the Americans. And again, a bit of a mistake. Immature was coming in to these 2 very low health AT guns with Panzer Grenadiers. Panzer Grenadiers have bundle grenades. 1 bundle grenade would have been able to take out both of these AT guns. But right now, Cyril has a vet-free rear echelon squad. Vet-free rear echelons get an improved repairability with 5 men. So that means they can repair fairly quickly. And so they're going to be able to repair these AT guns fairly quickly, and they're going to be able to reman those AT guns. So then, after the next engagements, basically you're going to have the German tanks being nailed by AT guns that could be dead. And, remanning them without repairing them, I feel like that's a mistake. Because again, you cannot have them die, but wait a second. Here it shows that the health is actually higher. I'm not sure. It's just very weird. I'm just not sure anymore. Ooh, the veteran Oh, wow, that's another squad with LMGs. Okay, one big mistake that Cyril Arts is doing is that he's definitely sort of leaving his weapons to the enemy a little bit too much. This Sturm Tiger is very much out of position, but I feel like it's a bit of a bait because there is a King Tiger and the Jackson is showing its very, very sexy ass against it. Heat rounds actually being popped from the Elite Armor Doctrine means that the Jackson takes a lot of damage, almost 70% of its HP in one shot. That was ridiculous from the King Tiger. Again, however, the heat shells are fairly expensive, 45 a pop. But Bori does have 435 munitions. One thing that he could do is that if he's not if he's preparing for a push and he's not sure where the Jackson or perhaps the Su-76s are, or in this case the Su-85, I didn't even realize, but the Triant has gone for the Tier 4, which in such a long match is actually a good idea. The KV-1 in this situation would not be very good. Very unfortunate that the conscripts were not able to actually pop the engine on this King Tiger. Sturm Tiger tries to take a shot against the conscript but does not hit. I'm sorry, I'm gonna laugh every time the Sturm Tiger fires. It's at 40 kills, so I really shouldn't laugh. It's a very much unit that you shouldn't take for granted that it's not gonna do well. Just because there's a lot of people that sort of hate on it, it doesn't mean that it's a bad unit. It's a ridiculously powerful tank. You don't want the Sturm Tiger to be running amok. And honestly, the best counter to the Sturm Tiger is exactly the opposite as to the best counter to the normal German heavy tanks. The best counter to the Sturm Tiger is a big swarm of mediums. The big swarm of mediums, trademark obviously, is a very good way to take out the Sturm Tiger because you can only shoot at a very sort of semi-stationary target with the Sturm Tiger, because it takes quite a while to actually aim that very powerful 380mm rocket launcher. So you cannot exactly nail a moving vehicle. And while a stationary medium will pretty much instantly get murked by the Sturm Tiger, a moving medium, there's no way it's gonna die. Of course, a moving medium also can get behind the Sturm Tiger and sort of get behind the heavy armor that this sort of frontal plate of the Sturm Tiger offers. So it's going to be fairly easy for that kind of a push to take out a Sturm Tiger. However, oh, as I say that, oh, that was a ridiculous shot. Wow. Sniper level accuracy from Bori, taking out the both the AT gun actually and the Jackson with a pretty much incredible moving shot. Wow, that was ridiculous. And the Sturm Tiger right now is definitely doing a mistake. He's trying to get in to use a grenade, I think. Remember, the Sturm Tiger at Ved 1 gets a grenade toss ability, but it's terrible. It's one of the worst grenades in the game, I feel like. It feels like throwing a pineapple at the enemy, really. I mean, I know that grenades sometimes are called pineapples, but that's an actual pineapple. Like, the enemy is like, oh, thank you, very tasty, very juicy. Not very afraid of that at all. But again, I'm not sure why the Sturm Tiger was just moving in. I think he was trying to either use the MG34 in the front or use the grenade against the AT gun. That's a mistake. You don't want your Sturm Tiger in harm's way, that kind of way. Now, I haven't been talking about what's been happening in the engagements a lot because I've been talking about just units and their counters. But, however, oh, that's very bad. There's a Stuka Close Air Support active on the poor Calliope. Calliope actually trying to make a 183mm rocket barrage work. However, the stun from the Stuka Close Air Support managing to actually finish off. The barrage goes in on the King Tiger but does not take it out. And right now, very lucky actually that it's not dead yet. Honestly, the Stuka Close Air Support is very powerful against vehicles and in fact will go down. So, yep, pretty much what I thought was going to happen. That Stuka Close Air Support is an excellent support ability in the late game armored engagements. Of course, there hasn't been much sort of armored play coming in from the allies. Only tank destroyers from Triant and only artillery units and tank destroyers from Arts. However, I feel like the allies could have gone for the swarm of mediums tactic at this point, because right now the Germans have lost a lot of their good anti-tank and good heavy vehicles. Immature has lost his Tiger a good once or twice, actually. Only once, but the second one has been going near death quite a few times. So a good flanking maneuver will be able to take it out fairly easily. However, Bori has almost lost the King Tiger as well. So right now the Germans really are hurting. Like they're in they're in an advantageous position, but they're not sort of in a commanding lead. Right now, the Allies, if they're able to keep up their good play and keep up their sort of countering the German heavy tanks, they do have a pretty good chance of actually getting out on top with the VP game, especially with the Allied swarm of infantry, especially from Cyril being active the way it is. It's going to be really, really good for the Allies to actually get some medium tanks out, and not just tank destroyers, because it's going to allow them to have better flank control, which right now, it hasn't really been happening all that much in terms of actual flanking engagements, because right now both sides are really sort of forgetting about sort of the flanks and harassing and the likes, and they're sort of throwing everything they have in the center, which is a bit of a mistake, I feel like, because especially for the Allies, it's a mistake, because the Germans are able to use their heavy tanks much better in a single engagement. Heat rounds popped on the King Tiger, going to be chasing away after the Su-85. However, Su-85 is much quicker than the King Tiger, so it's going to be able to escape. Especially with the Tiger having a damaged engine, the Tiger cannot help in the chase. And there's also 2 AT guns from the Allies. Again, these 2 AT guns could have been easily destroyed by Immature, and they weren't destroyed, so here they are being a pain in the ass for the Germans. So a bit of a mistake not taking out those AT guns. Now, Cyril could be going for another Calliope, but I feel like his Calliope play has been really bad. I mean, I don't even have his doctrine, so I can't speak for myself, and I feel kind of bad actually critiquing it. But he has been losing Calliopes, which is not what you want to do. Your Calliopes should be, especially... Okay, rocket artillery in general, rocket artillery that can move, like the Stuka, the Katyusha, and the Calliope, you don't want to be losing it, because, also the Panzerwerfer, because, again, it's a moving vehicle. You just use it, retreat, and then be safe. Oh, that was very close to actually taking out that conscript. You can use it, and then safely retreat, and then pretty much keep it alive the entire game. If you just have your artillery on a hotkey, for example, 1 or 9, if you're afraid of, I want to have my 1 hotkey be my sort of heavy tank or something else, you can have your artillery on your 9 hotkey, and every time you use it, you just press U and left-click on the base in the mini-map, because that way your artillery will reverse and go back to the base. That's the easiest way to make sure that your artillery will actually live. And there's actually a Panzer IV out from Bori. That's a mistake. That's a definite mistake. Right now he could have gone for a Panther, and right now he needs a Panther because it's gonna be very important to actually counter these Su-75s, and the Panther being a very, very quick medium tank with a very, very powerful anti-tank gun is pretty much the perfect way to counter tank destroyers, especially the Jackson, especially the Su-85 that cannot even rotate the turret to actually keep up with it in a flanking maneuver. The Panzer IV can still do that, but it's going to be much more vulnerable doing so. Its armor is much weaker, and in general, its gun is not as effective against infantry as the one that the Panther sports. So I feel like, oh no, another missed round from the Sturmtiger. Bori is actually getting a little bit sloppy with these, and that's a problem because the Sturmtiger has definitely paid for itself right now, but it needs to be continuing to doing damage against the Allied infantry, especially when the Allies has sort of reversed the situation, reversed the tables on what I was talking about earlier with the German advantage in terms of standard units. Earlier on, the Germans had the advantage in terms of infantry and standard units, especially support weapons as well. But right now, the tables have turned, and the Allies have the advantage in terms of machine guns and infantry, especially infantry from both players is very, very good in terms of their level. And right now, Triant does look like he is starting to realize that the left side of the map is completely unguarded, and he could just use some of his infantry squads to come in the left side and do a lot of damage just indirectly by capping and preventing the Germans from actually replenishing their resource supply. I'm actually going to speed it up a little bit because there's not much happening. It's just a crazy back and forth. Good counter from the... oh, wait. Okay. So the Panzer Grenadiers have been upgraded with G43s, and I feel like that's a bit of a mistake from Immature. I feel like that's a mistake, because the G43s tend to be a very expensive thing in terms of munitions, which, to be fair, Immature does have a lot of. The Germans have managed to keep up with their tradition of having the control of all of their munitions points on the map. However, I feel like that's still a waste, because this Panzer Grenadiers already by default have those very good STG-44s, which pretty much make them really good in medium to close range, which is pretty much what the G43s usually do anyway. Now, the King Tiger has taken a damaged engine because it drove a little bit too close to the Allied infantry, and the Tiger also drove a little bit too close to the Allied infantry. Nice usage of the T-34 to actually block the escape path, and the Stuka close air support coming in on the T-34 actually hit the King Tiger as well, and allowed the Su-85 to finish it off with a nice shot to the front. Tiger also went down. Tiger was instantly replaced by Bori, but again, because the Panzer IV was purchased from Immature, the Tiger was instantly replaced. But again, because Bori decided to purchase a Panzer IV instead of either going for a Panther or waiting for something else, now he does not have the resources that he needs in order to actually replenish his King Tiger. I'm not sure what Panzer IV died. The wreck was destroyed, so I'm guessing somewhere over here. Again, highlights the sort of frailness of the Panzer IV. You don't want that tank in the front line in the late game, especially when the enemy has things such as Jacksons and vetted up American AT guns. Because again, vetted up American AT guns, which right now they aren't vetted up, but they could be, do have those very, very dangerous take aim abilities, and especially with the third one, I believe, which is a penetration increase, along with the fire armor piercing discarding saber rounds, pretty much means that those Panzer IVs will always get penetrated. Even the OKW one which supports increased armor protection. Now, a second T-34 is on the field from Triant. Again, the utility of medium tanks. I cannot stress that enough. Medium tanks are just really useful. Especially when, in the late game situation, the enemy is not expecting you to go for a nimble medium tank that can just flank you on a whim. The second Tiger actually taken a lot of damage. Sturm Tiger had so many targets, decided to shoot at the MG. It was not even able to take out the MG fully. This is actually a Maxim in American hands, so that's a little bit of a weird thing. Now, one pack gun will almost go down from the fire of these riflemen. There's a lot of units from both sides just pouring into the center. This is just a little bit of a melting pot engagement that usually does not go very well for the Allies, but right now the Allies have managed to sort of focus fire on the German heavy tank, in this case the Tiger, quick enough to actually get it out of the fight. So just because of that, the Allied infantry was able to actually hold their own a little bit against the Germans. A little bit more than they should have, I should say. And that's a little bit of a good thing for the Allies, because they definitely need their reprieve. In terms of the units, they have managed to get some good engagements going, and they have managed to get their pop cap levels to be sort of equal to that of the Germans. In fact, almost entirely equal. Also because of the fact that right now, Immature has managed to replenish some of his forces, but Bori hasn't. So Triant does have a little bit of a superior force to Bori, in my opinion, if we don't count the Sturm Tiger. If the Sturm Tiger can get some good shots off, as it has been doing, then Bori is going to be able to be a little bit superior to Triant in terms of usefulness. But at the same time, if that does not happen, Triant will be superior. So again, the dilemma is, can Triant and Cyril sort of concentrate their forces and push quick enough to avoid having their VP disadvantage be a very big problem? Good actual play with the Raketenwerfer and the Jagdpanzer supporting each other. That is exactly what you want to do with very fixed weapons, such as Raketenwerfers and Jagdpanzers. In general, tank destroyers, you want them supporting each other. Really good ambush from the Raketenwerfer actually takes out the Jackson. Again, Jagdpanzer taking a anti-tank grenade from the American rifleman, but that's not going to be enough because the Sturm Tiger takes out a lot of their models and again forces the rest of the Allied infantry to retreat, along with the fact that there's a Tiger and it's been repaired, so you don't want that to happen. Now, this Grenadier squad will probably go down. Actually, it was saved by the fact that the first T-34 shot destroyed the wreck that they were salvaging. good actually thing that Bore is using the salvage ability just to supplement his fuel income, which right now has been suffering due to the really good flanking maneuvers from Triant and the really good harassing moves that he's been doing on the left side of the map. That's pretty much on point. That's what you want to do, especially in the late game, because in the late game, that's not something that the enemy will be thinking of instantly. They will be thinking, oh, I need to go and take the center VP. They will not think, oh, I should probably keep my resource income up by making sure that I can defend against left side incursions. That's not exactly their first train of thought. Now, because of that, Triant has been able to reduce the German fuel income to 16. And again, in a situation like this one where the Germans are starting to starve themselves of units, that's going to be a little bit more important than it may look on the surface. Again, there's a little bit more to it than meets the eye. There's a lot of things going on in a 2v2, especially in the late game. And the main choice at this point to both sides is going to be whether they want to cap for resources or cap for VPs. Now, I feel like at this point, the Germans should definitely try to cap for VPs, because they do have the advantage in terms of VPs, and in terms of... Ooh, Kamikaze. Almost taken out something. Lots of damage actually going down on these Stern Pioneers, almost taking them out. That's a bit of a problem for the Germans. Again, the Germans do have the advantage in terms of VPs, and they could go for the quick win. So they need to go for a triple cap. Because if the Allies are allowed to sort of continue rebuilding their forces and continue getting these good engagements going, it will sort of tilt the Germans. It will eventually make sure that the Germans sort of aren't thinking straight. They will be sort of sacrificing units to get a rushed win by sort of taking out the enemies in a decisive engagement, which is a sort of wrong approach right now. They need to go for the triple cap, because with their sort of still pretty good army, still pretty decent superiority in terms of especially heavy vehicles, they can go in and get the triple cap, and if they do that, they've got a lot of time to do that because the Allies don't have a lot of VPs, and the Germans do have a lot of VPs. And then once they do that, they force the Allies into motion. As you know, as you can see right now, the Soviets have gone for a pretty much suicidal maneuver, trying to take out this Jagdpanzer. Very lucky, actually, that it survived, along with the Sturm Tiger. Sturm Tiger was forced to retreat, however. So that kind of sort of opens the way for the M36 Jackson to come in and do some damage against the Germans. So again, you always need to be thinking of these things. Whereas the Allies, right now, they should not be going for a triple cap, because, again, it kind of overextends them. As you can see, if they kind of go for all three sides, they... how can you say it? They kind of spread out their forces. They parcel them out a little bit individually to the certain sort of individual victory points. And that's not going to be very good. That's not going to be very good, because right now the Germans have those big heavy vehicles that require a lot of sort of hitting power to take out. So you want them down. So you want to have those units concentrated and firing at one target. You want to have your riflemen and your conscripts coming in to deal sort of damaged engines. You want to have your Jackson and your Su-85s collaborating. You want to have your T-34s coming in from the side at the same time to take out the Jagdpanzer. Jagdpanzer actually charges in way too close, tries to get a heat round off on the Jackson, but will take a lot of damage from the 90mm gun of the Jackson, will take a damaged engine from the anti-tank rifle grenade of the rifleman, and it will go down. That was definitely a mistake. You don't want to be pushing up alone with any vehicle, especially tank destroyers. And now the Tiger will follow the same fate and take another anti-tank rifle grenade from the rifleman. Oh god, the Germans right now are kind of throwing their lead a little bit too much by throwing in their units piecemeal. That's definitely the worst mistake you can do in a late game environment, and right now the Sturm Tiger is making the same mistake. It will probably take out the T-34 because Triant was not able to actually save it and sort of get his attention on the T-34 in time. There is actually Panzer IV, which will manage to take out the M4 Sherman Calliope. Actually, no. The Jackson comes back. It's showing its rear armor to the Panzer IV, which will mean that, no, never mind. Very nice play from the Jackson. Takes out the Panzer IV along with the support of the T-34. And that was a terrible engagement for the Germans. They lost a lot. They lost both, Bore lost both of his fighting vehicles. He still has a Sturm Tiger miraculously, even though he sort of charged into 2 enemy vehicles. And right now, Immature does have his Tiger up and repaired, but again, he's got a lot of resources. Well, actually, not again. This is actually a thing that I haven't talked about yet. He has a lot of resources and a lot of troops, so he's fairly close to the POC. So you think, oh yeah, he's been doing well, right? Ooh, yes and no. I mean, one big problem with having a lot of resources and having your PopCap be almost full is it usually means that you haven't been playing aggressive enough. I know that sounds weird, but when you have a lot of resources, that means that basically you can sort of replenish your units instantly as soon as you lose them. In a late game situation, it may be sometimes better to just go in and be very aggressive and lose units so that you can trade them for the enemy. As long as you trade evenly or upward, you're gonna be sort of trading up anyway, because if you have more resources than the enemy, then you're gonna be able to replenish your units much more. And so if you can trade evenly, you're gonna be coming out on top. And that's not something that Immature is doing right now. He's being very cautious with some of his troops. For example, the packs and the machine guns, he's been keeping them very far removed from the fights. I haven't seen the packs actually participating in anything yet. For example, as you can see, one of these packs was actually probably taken out by artillery. The second one only now manages to get vet 2 in a game that's been full of armored engagements. It's been so full of armored engagements that basically these packs should be both vet free. I know that sounds weird, especially when the American ones haven't been getting veterancies, but that's because the American ones have been getting in the fight and getting decrewed all the time, because the Germans have managed to actually focus on them. Sorry, a bit of a cough. One really good thing was actually the fact that the Germans were able to take out that Veteran Jackson. Veteran Jacksons are pretty much the priority target for the Germans in any late game match that involves Americans, because the Jackson with those nice stripes of veterancy is pretty much the worst nightmare of any German heavy tank. It can get some pretty nasty rate of fire going, it can get some pretty nasty ranged accuracy going, and it can get some incredible penetration, up to the point where he's going to penetrate the Tiger from the front pretty much every round. And again, the versatility of the T-34 comes into play once again. T-34 managing to push along with the shock troops to the left side, and draws the Tiger in, along with managing to almost capture the VP and capture the fuel point. And the Tiger right now, it's definitely in a terrible position. It's facing its ass to the enemy, and the enemy says, well, thank you very much, you very sexy cat. I'm gonna come in with my T-34, get a lot of damage off on the rear armor of the Tiger. Remember, the Tiger's rear armor is pretty weak, as is pretty much the rear armor of all the heavy tanks after one of the last patches. And with the nice anti-tank grenade coming in from the conscripts, there's pretty much no escape for that Tiger. Tiger, again, can be repurchased instantly from Immature, but that was not a trade. That was a straight-up loss. That was a straight-up throwaway. It's a bit of a problem if you're going to be losing your units like that. It wouldn't be a problem if you were losing your units in a different way, and this is pretty much my favorite thing about the T-34, and in general Soviet vehicles, is that once they get to Vet 1, they can use that combat mode / secure mode, obviously duality of purpose. With the secure mode, you can capture points, and this comes in incredibly handy in these late game matches where you're going to need one vehicle that can sort of run past machine guns, be very quick around the map, and capture VPs when the enemy least expects it. And that's one of my favorite things about the T-34-76 that makes it, in my opinion, really relevant even in the late game, despite its very cheap cost and its very cheap, very weak gun and armor. The fact that you can just use it once it gets to Vet 1 in this way means that it is one of the best late game medium tanks, because it is just so much more versatile than even a Panzer IV from the OKW. Panzer IV from the OKW is almost twice the cost in terms of fuel, and it's definitely almost twice the combat capability of the T-34-76. However, because of the fact that it cannot capture points, it is much weaker in terms of a late game vehicle. Good play actually from Cyril, manages to catch the Sturm Tiger in a very, very aggressive maneuver. Sturm Tiger was very much overzealous in that move, trying to come in and take out some enemy units at close range. I feel like the Jackson made a mistake in not pursuing the kill on this Vet 4 Sturm Tiger. I mean, this guy is not going to be replaced. Even if the resources are there and you can replace it, the Vet 4 is just not going to be replaced ever in this match. The match would have to go on for another hour for that to happen, probably, and that's not going to happen, let's face it. So, again, really, really unfortunate that the Allies were not able to take it out. Good Calliope Barrage takes out the pack crew, which means that the T-34s can push up. And the T-34s being able to push up means that this Sturm Tiger is in very much big problem. Unfortunately, the T-34s are pushing into the Hornet's nest of Germans, and in fact, the Germans will be able to repulse this attack. Very lucky for the T-34s, they will not go down, and they will not take a Panzerfaust from all these Volksgrenadiers that are running about, like bees. Unfortunately, for the Germans, they will not be able to take out any of the T-34-76s. The Allies, in the meantime, have managed to capture the center point with a squad of shock troops, despite the fact that there's a bunker on the field for immature. Again, bunker, pretty okay in the late game, just to hold a VP or something, just as a stopgap. You want that bunker to be there just as a annoyance. You wanted the enemy to actually commit a little bit more than one infantry squad to actually go in and capture that point. However, I feel like the Germans right now are starting to get back into the lead because of the fact that the Allies are starting to lose terrain, and especially because Cyril hasn't been spending his resources. He could have gone for 2 Jacksons right now, or 1 Sherman and 1 Jackson right now, and used that to great effect in this engagement. Had he just had that and a couple more infantry squads or a couple more AT guns or machine guns from his incredible manpower pool, he would have been able to push much more effectively for the center. Don't underestimate the utility of a Sherman as well in the late game. It can use that very good smoke barrage that it's got. Very long range, very heavy, sort of very wide area of effect. Can use that to great effect to actually suppress machine guns and allow the infantry to push up in a very organized fashion. Now, right now, the Allies' only saving grace is the fact that they hold this right side field point, victory point. Unfortunately, Triant decided to send in the non-veteran T-34 to capture the left side. That, in fact, has alerted the Germans that Triant is actually sort of thinking about that. Right now, the Allies have 75 points, which means that right now there will be 3 minutes and a little bit, like 3 minutes and a quarter of time for them to actually keep up and capture a point. If it was a triple cap, they would right now only have a minute to capture a point before they lose. So when the count will reach 0, that would be pretty bad for the Allies because they will lose. Immature right now is making sure that that does not happen by getting more Grenadiers. And that may seem like a weird thing, but I feel like that's a winning move because it will do 2 things. Grenadiers can, unlike Panzer Grenadiers, they can Panzerfaust vehicles. So they're going to be much more useful against a wild T-34 that's going to try to come in and capture a point. And they're also much more useful in a long-range slug-out fight, such as the things that are happening right now in the center, whereas the Panzer Grenadiers pretty much just have to charge in pretty mindlessly. And so right now, the Soviets, very good play with 1 conscript squad, managing to capture the left side point. They will be able to also get a little bit of a... Wait. A Katyusha? Are you kidding me? I feel like that's a mistake from Triant. Managing to use it to good effect to actually take out a few units in the center, but... Sorry for the burp. I still feel like that's a mistake. Because, again, the Katyusha is not very useful against heavy units. It is a very light hitter. It's very good against those light units if RNGesus is with you, but in general, And again, Sherman's proving their worth against the tank destroyer, easily able to take out the Jagdpanzer. Again, swarm of medium, not easy to take out with a with Sturm Tiger. Sturm Tiger is in now very big problems, very big trouble, because the Tiger over here, the only sort of mobile fighter, the only sort of slugger that the Germans have, is on the other side of the map. So right now, the Allies are only sort of forced back because of the Stuka close air support strafe. On the left side, the Tiger is in a little bit of trouble, but at the same time, only 1 T-34 is trying to fight it. And there is actually a teller mine over here, which means that if the second T-34 tries to come in, it will probably run into the mine and be in a world of hurt, along with the fact that the the Su-85. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, actually, Trion knows about the mine because of the combat engineers. Good pushing with the combat engineers along with the actual vehicles. That's not what you want to do, pushing up your vehicles without minesweeper support, especially in the late game, because this is when usually people forget about bringing minesweepers, because again, engineers are very frail units in the late game. So you don't want your frail units pushing up, ergo you usually don't push up with your minesweepers. That's a mistake, and that's something that you should always exploit by planting as many mines as possible, even in the late game. Right now, Triant could be using those combat engineers to actually plant a demo charge on the victory point. This is, I feel like, the best usage of the time for his combat engineers, not sort of standing here capturing a point or doing, I don't know, God knows what. Right now, actually, very unfortunate for the Soviets, the Vet 2 T-34 went down. Thankfully for the Soviets, the second T-34 is up to Vet, almost up to Vet 1, so he's going to be able to use the secure mode fairly soon. Right now, the Allies do have the control of 2 VPs, but that's not enough, because right now the Germans have 180 VPs, which means that pretty much with the rate at which the Germans will be bleeding points, they will need 3 minutes for 60, so 9 minutes to win the game. Right now, they need sort of some way to end the game a little bit quicker, because again, the Sturm Tiger still out there, still being annoying. Vet 3 40 kill pack howitzer going down to the 380mm rocket, but I feel like this is the end of the Sturm Tiger. He pushed up very far, and he is pretty much right now in the middle of Allied lines. There is the Jackson. The Jackson could use the HVAP shells to actually help out in the destruction of the Sturm Tiger. There is a T-34 charging into the center. Left side point being captured by Immature. That's a very good play. There is a couple of pack guns finally moving up from Immature. They will finally participate in the fight. Takes out one T-34. Really good play from long range. That's exactly how you do it with a pack. Second T-34 almost taken out. None of the packs are... Oh, actually, one of the packs is Vet 1, so he could have used the target weak point on that T-34. And right now, the Tiger is unopposed on the left side because the T-34 is in the center and because the Su-85 was pushed up a little bit too far earlier on and died. Again, you don't want to overextend. It's been happening with the Sturm Tiger a lot, but he's been lucky that the Allies were not capitalizing enough on it. And it's also been happening with Trion, unfortunately. Now, very good push from Cyril, coming in from all sides with the Shermans. This is basically the swarm tactic that you want to use with the Shermans. However, unfortunately, the Jackson is also taking a Panzerfaust to the face, and the pack, with its last dying shot before dying, manages to take out that Vet 2 Jackson, which could have been such a pain in the ass of the Tiger. Speaking of the Tiger, where the hell is the Tiger? Okay, it's coming into the fight just now from the left, and all the Shermans are going down. That's a bit of a problem for the Allies, because right now they don't have that many tanks, and they don't have any fuel to replace any tanks, and they don't have any time to get any fuel because they only have 50 points. If the Germans can get a good squad coming in to capture the point in the center, as Immature is trying to do with a huge swarm of infantry, he could very well finish this game right now, and that would be... Well, that would be very good for him, I feel like, because he has to get tired at this point. He has to be a little bit tired after an hour and 10 minutes. I mean, I'm already tired and I'm not even playing, so damn. Calliope Barrage coming in the center, trying to take out the bunker once and for all, but it's a little bit too late. You want to take out the bunker when you're pushing, not when you're defending. And also, in fact, it does not take out the bunker. This bunker was actually a hero. He helped out quite a bit in the center. And I feel like that's the end. I don't see how the Allies could recover. So I'm going to go straight ahead and talk about mistakes that both sides went for. I feel like Triant, his main mistake was sometimes overextending his tank destroyers. It happened early game with the Su-76s, it happened late game with the Su-85s, and it also sort of highlights the fact that he went for a little bit too much tier 3. I mean, the fact that he had all that tier 3 really doesn't make any sense to me. He could have just as easily gone for a tier 4 a little bit earlier on in the game and then use that to great advantage for himself, but I feel like he did a little bit of a mistake in not going for that. So what's actually happening over here? Wait, what? Why is there an OKW Sherman? So OKW Sherman takes out 2 of its American siblings. One of them was a Calliope. Finally, Bori went for a Panther. I'll talk about Bori later. Cyril, not going for a lot of units in general. He had a lot of floating. Immature also had a lot of floating, but Immature had a lot of floating with maximum pop cap. Whereas Cyril had a lot of floating when he had not a lot of pop cap. And that's obviously much worse. So there's the surrender because Cyril and Trion know that pretty much at this point they can't do anything. Wow, that was a game. Cyril, again, his other mistake was a little bit being a little bit too hunkered down on the right side. Again, in general, Triant and Cyril didn't play as much as a team as Bori and Immature did, but that's just because they had an arranged team being up against them, and they were not an arranged team. So again, can't do much about that there. Bori, his main mistake was really not going for the right types of units at the same time, and also overextending like a motherfucker sometimes. He was a little bit ridiculous with that. He lost a lot of infantry, perhaps a lot more than anyone else in the match. Perhaps only Trion lost more infantry than he did. Let's actually check that out. He lost 4 shock troops and 3 conscripts. Wow! Holy crap! He lost 12 Volksgrenadier and 5 Stern Pioneers. Yeah, no, he definitely takes the losing infantry Olympics gold medal. Immature. What was his main mistake? A little bit too defensive, especially with the packs. Again, the one time he pushed up the packs to actually participate in a fight, he did really well. He actually demolished every single allied tank. He was able to, in that fight, take out 3 T-34s, 2 Shermans, actually decrew 1 Sherman, and then take out 1 Jackson, 1 Vet-2 Jackson. So that just goes to show how important pushing up your packs to fights is. And yeah, I feel like if he had done that a little bit earlier with all the engagements that were happening, especially on the left side with his Tiger and the T-34s and the Su-85 running around the Tiger like a little bit of a marionette, that would have been much better for him. However, I feel like he was relying a little bit too much on the Stuka Close Air support to be the anti-tank support. He could have also been a little bit less sort of safe about saving resources in order to replace Tigers. Now, I completely understand why he did it, because, again, he lost like 3 Tigers. Yeah, 3 Tigers. So it was definitely justified. And it's not like because he was playing excessively recklessly, it's just because the Allies were being very aggressive in pursuing those Tigers. So having resources in order to replenish that Tiger is really good. However, I feel like a Panther, in this case, to actually support a Tiger would have been really good in a role of sort of supportive, trying to take out the flanking medium tanks of the enemy, or even a Panzer IV. Just something to body block the T-34s that are flanking you, and to deal some extra damage when the Tiger cannot. And that's, I feel like, about it. So I want to thank y'all for watching this incredibly long game. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the slightly better replay this time in terms of the player skill. And I'll see you soon.